as Caitlin mentioned, I've been teaching for about 13 years. So to start off, I know that you guys have just started school just a few weeks ago, right? Okay, so I have a quick pop quiz for you. Are you ready? I know you were like, wait a minute, I'm just here to eat lunch. And I'm on now. Okay, great. Okay. All right, you're going, okay, let me be. All right, this will be easy. So I'm going to show you some statements, and I want you to tell me if you believe that students have actually said these things. Are you ready? Okay. First one. I seem to be enrolled in your American government class. Did a student really say that? Like, you know, I just sort of landed there. Possibly was dropped in. Okay, a student really did email a professor saying that. All right, ready for the next one? Okay, got a little bit of jumping here. I'm a really good student, but I have a lot of personal things going on right now. Do students really say that to their faculty? They do, absolutely. All right, next one. On assignment number 1 and 7, you said I did not follow directions. Is there anything that I can do to fix these papers so that I can raise my grade? I'm trying to bring my grades up so that I don't lose my much-needed benefits. Do students say this? They say it all the time, right? Okay, now I have 3 more, but we're going to go to the other side. Did faculty really say these things? You ready? Student, I need to talk to you about class. Me, you rarely attend. Student, I'm sorry, I overslept. Me, class is at 1 p.m. Did a faculty person really say this? Yes. Next one. Now that it's nearing the end of the quarter, students are being struck down by personal tragedies and falling numbers. Yes, and that has been said many, many times. And finally, if you put as much effort into answering the exam questions with anything like the right answer rather than blaming me, you might do better in this class. Do you think a faculty person actually said that? They did. A faculty person said every single one of these things, and real students said these other things. Now, did the faculty say these things to the student? The answer to that is no. And so there is, I'm going to move out here, there is a disconnect. In the 13 years that I've been teaching, I teach communication, so a wide range of interpersonal and public speaking and small group communication. I have really noticed over the years that there is an increasing disconnect between faculty and students. There are a number of reasons that I think that this is the case. One of the biggest that I've noticed on my campus, and I don't know if it's happening here, is that everybody's face all of a sudden is in a pad. An iPad, a keypad. I see a row of students outside waiting for classes, and instead of having those conversations with each other, everybody's now texting and just doing something else, not making eye contact. And I started to think about how I'm noticing my students' communication change and what I increasingly hear my colleagues around the country say about their interactions with students. So I started writing about it. I started blogging as the Chatty Professor. And the site's been up for about 5 months, and I've had over 11,000 hits. And it's been very interesting to see that faculty feel frustrated, students feel like they're not being understood, and so what my goal has been is to try to bridge some of the gap. So let's jump in and talk about what you will learn today, because really, it is true that the #1 key to your success in college, it has a lot to do with your relationship with those who teach you. So let's talk about some communication strategies that you will learn today. So first of all, very first thing I'm going to start with is conflict and you. Because believe it or not, the way you manage conflict in the rest of your life has a lot to do with your college success, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. A verbal change that you can make today, that you can do today, isn't that great? There's something that you can do today when you leave here, maybe even while you're here. That can be very helpful in your communication. 3 practical but pesky class-related issues that you might face. 2 issues that you might feel are being done to you by a faculty member and how you can seamlessly work through those. And then finally, what your instructor can do to help you. And for those of you in the audience who are faculty or staff here on campus, I'm just going to share some things that I have to remind myself of all the time. So let's go ahead and jump in. All right, so I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to just take a second. Think about the last, you don't have to tell anybody, think about the last person that you got into any kind of argument with. Okay? So think about it, just think about it. My last argument was between myself and whoever it is. Okay? And if you haven't had an argument in a while, great. Think about, whenever you did. Oh, okay. See, that little bomb is about to explode. It's going to explode. Oh, no, it's not. All right. Well, that's okay. I can keep going. So let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you now about your conflict management style. Are you ready? Okay. So let's say you are someone who puts up. You are a putter-upper. So you are someone who has a non-assertive conflict management style. What this means is that you hold it in when you're mad. You don't want to make other people upset with you. You don't like confrontation very much. A lot of people fall into this category. So that means that you're someone that puts up. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand if you fall into any of these categories, don't worry. But I'll ask you some questions in a minute. So the next one is, are you someone that shuts other people up? Are you a directly aggressive conflict manager, meaning that you are, oh my God, okay. Meaning that you are someone who will either yell at someone and totally, destroy their character if they get you mad. You'll talk about them, how awful they are, things that they did to you 6 months ago, their mom's minivan, their cat. You'll just say everything bad that you possibly can that you ever could remember about them. Or you might physically hurt somebody, like you are someone that will totally punch someone in the face. I don't know that I want to know that. But, all right, so are you that person? Or are you someone who sneaks up on other people with your anger? A little bit of passive aggression. You might be someone who you tell everybody else that you're angry, but you won't tell the person directly. Okay, so now I have some questions for you. For someone who puts up, is kind of quiet, tell me what that looks like when you are, let's say that's your conflict management style out there in the world. Now you're a student in someone's class and you're not happy. Something's not going well for you, whatever it is. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. What does that look like for a student who has that conflict management style? What will they do? Anybody? I'm used to classes where people just call things out. It's fine.
They just do this, something like that. They're just really quiet with their hand on their face or something. Sleepy all the time.
Okay, so they just don't do anything. They kind of, are distracted, looking sleepy. Anybody else? What do they do? What do they do? Say it again?
Walk away.
They walk away. They don't solve the problem, right? Because they're holding it in. All right, what about those who get directly angry at someone else and they just totally, rip them apart verbally? What will a student do if that's their default conflict management style and their instructor makes them mad? What will they do? Interrupt the class. Yeah, absolutely. What else? What else will they do? Oh, you guys are too quiet. Come on. I know what do they do? They'll get it. Oh, right. They'll just get in their face. All right. And what about people who tell everybody else that they're mad? What does that look like for a student who won't directly confront, but tells everybody else? What will they do? They complain a lot to other people. Absolutely. So the one thing that doesn't happen in all of these situations is the faculty member never knows that there's a problem. The student is upset, and obviously grades can become the work, and grades can suffer. So what the goal is to speak up and to use what we call the assertive message. And I'm going to go right into that right now. And this is the one verbal strategy that you can start to use today that students have told me it's the one change that they've even made in their personal lives, in romantic relationships with their families, that's made such a difference for them. And it might sound kind of like a no-brainer, but the one thing, the one word that a lot of students, people in general, start with is you. You. Okay? You didn't call me last night. You didn't do that right. So let me ask you a question. Let's just analyze the word you for a minute. What's the underlying message when someone views you? That came out weird. What is the underlying message of you? You, I mean, I'm not talking about you look pretty today. I mean, that's obviously different. But what is the underlying message? Blame game. What else?
Scapegoat.
Scapegoat. What else?
It's not me.
It's not me. It's got to be you. Do you guys know people like that? Everything is up the... Are you saying you're...
Yeah.
ourselves, right? So you is a very steady diet for a lot of students in their communication with instructors. You didn't explain that assignment well. You didn't tell me I was missing my third essay grade. You give boring lectures, and we're going to come back to the boring lectures one in a little bit. So how do you fix this? You work instead with I language. And it's not so easy. I mean, it is not so easy, because what do you have to do when you use the word I? What does that mean that you're doing? You're admitting, you're saying that you have a problem. What else are you doing? Taking responsibility. Focusing on yourself. It's not easy to do that because, right, we feel more vulnerable, we feel more exposed. When you say you, people automatically inside of themselves, there's a place that they go that is just not a good place. So when you start off with I, it's a it's a softer startup rather than the harsh startup that we usually have. So how can you replace, you didn't call me last night? How do you replace that with an I? I didn't get your call. And you can also talk about how you felt. I'm concerned that I didn't hear from you. I'm frustrated that my phone didn't ring. I was worried about you. Those are all about you. And that is one huge change that you can make in all of your relationships. Because the other person might still say, wait, you're making me feel bad. You're making me feel whatever. You're blaming me. And then you're like, well, wait a minute. I'm talking about how I feel. So I'm sharing how I feel. That's, All right, so let's go back to these. You didn't explain that assignment well. How do we rephrase that? I didn't understand. Okay, awesome. You didn't tell me I was missing my third essay grade. I just got this last term. In Seattle, we don't start for a few more weeks. I just got this. As someone who didn't like their grade at the end of the term, they were like, you didn't tell me I was...
I didn't see my grade.
Yeah, I noticed that my grade wasn't there. I didn't see it. I'm going to save you give boring lectures because I'm going to work with you on that one in just a minute. All right, so can I just qualify saying to someone, I think you suck? That does not count. Okay? That doesn't get your I in there and make it okay. So just remember, I is ownership, I is responsibility, and it's so much better than using you, which puts people immediately on the defensive. So try to see when you're working with something you're frustrated with, if you can own it a little bit more by using I. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so let's talk about 3 super pesky class-related issues. First of all, your grade goals. So you guys have been in school for a little bit now, for a few weeks, and when do you think that students decide that they're concerned about their grades? Look at it, if you can, look at it from the other side for a second. When do you think students come to me and say, I'm concerned about my grade? Near the end of the semester, or we're in quarters, or what I used to teach in semester. When it comes to grade goals, the time to have that conversation is the first day, no later than the first week, because students have lots of different reasons that they have grade goals. Sometimes it's just personal, intrinsic desire, right, that you want a certain grade out of that class. Sometimes it's super practical. You have a transfer program that you need to get into. You need to hold on to your benefits. Okay, so I have a little experiment here, and it does require some volunteers and speaking that you can read. So will 3 people be willing to volunteer for me?
3 people?
Yeah, I need 3 people. Okay, come on up. Come on up. Yes, thank you. Yay! I love participation. Tell me your name. Hi. Hi, Nick. This is Nick. We go way back to like a little while ago. Hi, what is your name? Kelsey. Hi, Kelsey. Okay, can I, one more? One more? I'll beg, and I'm good at waiting out silences because I'm practicing. Okay, what's your name? And here's Anthony. Okay, so this is for you, this is for you, and this is for you. Okay, so I'm going to let you look. Okay, so all right. So here are three students who have come to me and have said, I'm worried about my grades. So let's
Okay, it's not quite midterm. I've gotten a few graded assignments from my professor. I'm not doing as well as I hoped. I have 3 more assignments, a midterm and a final exam left. An awful lot of pressure is riding on that work if I want to get a decent grade.
All right, so midterm, things have been not going necessarily the way that this person wants, and now there's a whole lot of pressure riding on the rest of that work. Okay, so now,
It's the end of the quarter and I haven't paid attention to my grades. I added up my points and looked at the total points for the class. My goal grade is definitely not going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen.
all right, so suddenly pays attention to grades. Suddenly pays attention, and what I need isn't going to happen. All right.
I took my midterm and my grade was horrible. I had good grades, low A's, high B's until that point, but a bad headache kept me from doing my best on the exam. The exam is worth twice the points of those smaller assignments. I'm worried about the next assignments and the final.
Okay. So it's an utter emergency at that point. This is why it's so critical. It's the one issue that I feel, I think time and time again, I just wish that students would talk about those grade goals on the very first day. And here's what that could look like. So hi, it's nice to meet you. My name is Ellen. I'm really excited to be in this class. I really am looking for an A. I'm one of those 4.0 people. And I am wondering, you've explained the syllabus, and that was great, and I feel pretty good about what's happening here. But I'm just wondering, could you give me some advice on if there are any extras, anything I specifically need to do to get that 4.0 in this class? And here's something else you can ask. Do you accept work early for review? How early? When should I get that to you? Should I look at maybe a week before the deadline or 2 weeks? Should I make an appointment with you? How would you like to receive that? On email? If I make the changes that you recommend, would you review it again? So this is the conversation that you have to have. And let me just say, you don't have to want an A. You know what? There were some classes when I was in school, oh my gosh, I was happy to get a C. College algebra, forget about it. I mean, all I needed was that one class to finish my degree. I was happy. I was happy for a C. So we don't judge you for your grade goals. But even if you want the C, make sure that your instructor knows. All right, now let's talk about late work. How do you think that usually goes down? What do students typically say to faculty to talk about late work? What are some of the comments students made?
My dog ate my homework.
My dog ate my homework. You saw that other comment, students are having personal tragedies in record numbers on the campus. I missed that class. Or they'll simply ask, can I turn in my assignment late? Okay, are you going to go to a boss someday and say, can I just do that late? Is that all right? So, should you never turn in late work? Life happens. I get that. We all get that. Some of your instructors are going to have a no late work policy. Others of them will. And let me ask you something. Students will come and they'll tell, they'll just spill out all of their personal, everything that's going on with them and why it was late. Does the reason matter? In a semester, in a 15-week semester, is that what your semesters are, 15 weeks?
17.
Oh, it's a little longer. Okay. When I was teaching in Georgia, it was 15. Or 10 weeks. Does the reason matter when you have a finite period of time? It doesn't. And I'm not saying that because we don't care. We absolutely care. That's why we're doing this. Sure, there probably are some that are just checked out. But the majority of us love what we do and care totally about you. But we have to move to solve the problem. So spending 10 minutes talking about whatever's going on, that can be a separate conversation at another time. But the key is being proactive and assertive. So what you want to do with that is go to now you're going to be my professor now. So you go to your professor and you say, I am so sorry. I missed the assignment that was due last Wednesday. It was unavoidable. I've checked the syllabus. See, proactive. You're telling the instructor what you've already done. I've checked the syllabus, and I noticed that there's a late policy. If I turn it in a week late, no more than a week late, I can still get some credit for it. I just want to confirm with you that that's the case. And here's the key. Tell the instructor the date that you plan to turn it in. Give them, so do you see what you're doing? You're being super proactive. You're telling them what you plan to do, and you're checking in with them. It's so much better than, can I turn this assignment in late, or I just didn't do it. Now, if you're confused, and that's the reason you were late, then what do you need to do? Yes, and when clarify it, and when should you do that? The second you believe that you will be confused because you don't know what's going on. The second, don't wait for something to osmose into your head or for it to magically get it, because if you don't get it, you don't get it, and that's okay. That's what we're here for. That's what college is about. So remember, proactive and assertive. Always tell the instructor, here's what I've already done to meet this requirement. Here's what I've already done. I've looked at the syllabus, I've looked at the late policy, I'm on the right track to finish it within 1 week. If you aren't, then you need to have a further conversation about what the instructor is willing to do. They will be impressed that at least you didn't just ask to be late. Because can we say yes to you with 27 other people in the class? No. I always tell my students, other students will pop my mom minivan tires. I gotta be careful with what I say yes to. Okay, last one is absences. So let me give you a few ways that that goes down. Can you be my professor right now? All right, so here's another one. You know, I missed last week. I got the flu. It was like 3 days. Did I miss anything important? All right. Will you be my instructor now? I am going to be absent in 2 weeks. I have a pole dancing competition in Vegas. I can make like $10,000. I'm a single mother, and I can't miss this. That is a true one. That is true. A student had a pole dancing competition in Vegas that stood to win $10,000. And really, I'm a speech instructor. I was speechless that day. She was so professional about it. So, all right. So did I miss anything important? If you knew what faculty go through to put classes together, and I can totally get it from a student's perspective, because some days feel like kind of chatty, conversational discussion days, and other days it's like we're prepping for this exam, right? So I get it from a student's perspective, but just know we put a lot of work into preparing each day, and to us every day is indeed important. So, if you have a pole dancing competition in Vegas, which more power to you if you do, believe it or not, this is another one of those times where the excuses simply don't matter. You move to solve the problem, unless you have a family member that is very ill and it's going to be a longitudinal issue. So something that's going to impact you far longer than today, or you are sick, or you are pregnant, or you are something. I mean, seriously, if it's going to be a long-term issue, then you really need to have a longer discussion. But otherwise, here's how you deal with absences. I am so sorry. I was sick last week, and I missed 3 days. But I looked at the syllabus, and I noticed in the schedule that you covered chapters 4, 5, and 6. I went ahead and I read those chapters, and I went over the material. I have some really specific questions. Is it all right if I make an appointment with you so I can go over them? That is, again, proactive and assertive. What you've already done to solve the problem. Okay? If you know that you are going to be absent in a week, your family's going on vacation or whatever, which, you know, I mean, that's a tough one because we always think, well, can't vacations be planned outside of the term? But sometimes they can't. Then let the instructor know what you plan to do, that you know what they're covering, you're going to do the work early to cover your absences, and you plan to take care of it. Again, assertive, proactive, using I language. Okay, so let's move on. Now here are these are frustrating issues on the student side. These are kind of tough to talk about. These are delicate subjects, okay? The very first one, the whole class failed. Okay, the instructor walks in, the whole class failed. One of my degrees is in post-secondary education. So in my undergrad work, I studied how to teach adults. That wasn't necessarily intentional. If my university was offering it, I knew that I wanted to teach college. I was in healthcare previously, and so that seemed like a good degree for me. My master's degree is in communication. What I learned from my professors in that program is something that as an educator, I really have to do a lot of hard looking at myself. When a whole class doesn't do well on an assignment or doesn't do well on an exam, quiz, whatever, what I was taught is that there's a problem with the instruction or there's a problem with the instrument, meaning the test, the assignment, the question. So as a student, I want to let you know that you have a right to question when the whole class fails. That's not going to be an easy discussion. I'm not going to even sugarcoat that one. It's not an easy discussion. Hopefully your instructor will already see, oh my goodness, we had a problem here, and everybody missed these 4 questions. Where did that go wrong? But they might not. So you have the right to go to them privately, make an appointment, and say, I'm concerned about my grade. You mentioned that the whole class didn't do well. And what I call not doing well is if it's like in the D or F range, like the whole class truly did below average or totally out and out failing. You have the right to say, can you tell me what the class average, are you willing to tell me what the class average was? And you also can say, is there something we can do since this didn't go well? Some things that you can propose are, can we all collectively look at the material again? Can we possibly go back and redo it for partial credit? I'm not saying that your instructor will necessarily go along with these things, but I am saying that it's important for you to speak up if you get a whole class failed situation. Because then there is something wrong. Something went wrong in the system there. And it's up to you and your instructor to take a look at that. And I would say that a large number of instructors would catch it before you're concerned about it and figure out something to do. I mean, we have a departmental exam. When my students don't do well on a specific section, I mean, I either throw it out, or if it's something we have to build on, then I'll go back and look at it. Or I'll figure out what I did and how I taught it. Did I miss something? But you do have a right to question, and you do have a right to ask for some alternatives. And again, I know it's not easy. As long as you don't do that harsh startup, you have a better chance of being listened to. The next one is, this class is boring. Boring is so incredibly subjective, right? And it is super hard to teach. I gotta tell you, I am like, on fire all the time. I've been teaching for a long time. I love public speaking. I mean, I drove from Seattle to get here. I love public speaking. Love it, like in a freak way. But I could have flown, but it was 9/11 and I was a little scared. So I'm like, Mom's taking a road trip. It was kind of cool. So anyway, but the boring is tough. Because I think to myself, I can come in and do these great activities and do all this stuff, and some guy's going to still be sleeping in the corner. That said, I also put in a lot of seat time myself in school. And there were days, and can you guys relate to this, where I left more exhausted than when I walked in. Can you guys relate to some of that? So there were times, like I had this one professor, he stood there and read from a legal pad for 3 hours. It was one of those condensed summer courses, environmental science. It was awful. So if the class is truly boring, what the bottom line is that you're not engaging with that material, and that's a problem. So you go to the instructor. Can I borrow you for a minute? Can you be my instructor? You go to the, but you're not boring. But like, let's just say you're an instructor who was. So, but you're not. But okay, so you go to the instructor and you say, hi, can I talk to you for a minute? I'm struggling with the format of the class right now. I really appreciate how much time and energy you're putting into the lectures and into the PowerPoint presentations. I'm having trouble connecting with the material. And what I'm wondering is, do you think that we could maybe have some more time for questions and answers? Could we maybe do some can we get together in groups and discuss the material maybe once a week? Could we take some time to do some some activities? Can we send note cards, anonymously with our questions to you? Anything that will let you interact more with the material. You have the right to ask. Is every instructor going to say, oh yes, I'm going to change my whole teaching style? And teaching style is a funny thing. It's based on personality. Some people are very straightforward. They're lecturers. Other people are like a talk show host. It's people's personalities, largely. It's also how they were taught to teach. That has something to do with it. And it's also what they saw with their teaching. None of these models has anything wrong with it. Not one. The lecturer, the talk show host, none of them have anything wrong with them. But it's what your connection is to that material, and the goal is for you to be engaged at least. There are things you can do also. I mean, you can make sure that you're taking notes. You can record the material. You can get your own study group together and you guys all talk it out together. You can, make a ton of notes in the sides of your textbook. You can rewrite the notes again to make you feel like you're doing something with it. But bottom line is, you do have the right. Okay, so as I move into the last section, what instructors can do for you. And these are things that as an instructor myself, I have to remind myself that there is a lot that I can do for students, and sometimes I forget about all of the little things. So first of all, your instructors can keep tabs on you. If you suddenly aren't showing up, I know I will email my students and I will, say, hey, where have you been? Are you okay? Something going on? So they can check in with you and make sure that things are going okay. Instructors can also serve as your one-stop resource shop. And I think a lot of us take for granted how we can cut through red tape that a lot of students can't. I have had students in my office with financial aid problems. They're worried about the grade in my class because they're worried about losing their benefits. I can make a quick call to someone in the financial aid office and check in on that for them. I've had students in my office with major emotional situations going on. Life happens when you're in college. I can call the counseling office. We have free counseling on campus, licensed counseling. I can get them an appointment. Here's another thing that you may not know. Let's say you're trying to get into a class. That class is full. Go to a faculty member that you feel a connection with and ask them if they'd be willing to call that person. I'm not saying to get you in the class, but here's what I had to do last term. I had a student that wanted to get into an online psychology class, and our online class is filled like wildfire. So this class had like a full roster and a waiting list. So I called up Rod Fowers in the psychology department. I'm like, hey Rod, I said I've got a student sitting here, really anxious to get into your online class, didn't make it by registration day. You've got a full class and you've got a wait list. Can you kind of tell me how that class cycles? Is it even worth the student's time to get on the wait list? What are her chances for actually getting in? We can ask those questions for you. Now, I'm not saying every single faculty member is going to do this, and I'm not saying that, I'm trying to say that we should, enable students to not do these things for themselves. But the truth of the matter is as a student, when you're super angry about something, or you're frustrated, or you feel like the system is just too cumbersome to get through, your instructor can be your one stop, and they can likely get to people to get you to the next level. So don't overlook their ability to do that. Faculty can help you brand yourself. Did you know that verbal communication is the #1 most sought after employability skill right now? It is. Isn't that, it's the #1 according to the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And a lot of students come to college and they think, but they're going to want real-world experience. Well, guess what? Your classes have real-world experience. Your classes have interpersonal communication, group presentations, public speaking. They have assignments that you can show. A lot of you are in these classes where you are getting direct experience in most of them. If you go to your instructor and you look at the syllabus and the assignments and what you're doing and say, hey, how do I package this for a resume? How do I do that? They can help you do that. So they can help you do that personal branding that you can be building while you're here in college. And the very last thing that they can do is remind you to complete your community college education. A lot of people think, what difference does that make? But it does make a huge difference. Couple reasons. #1, an extra degree certainly can't look like a bad thing. I'm a graduate of Community College of Southern Nevada, now called College of Southern Nevada. I don't know why they changed it. I'm originally from Vegas. And I am super proud of the fact that I have that extra degree. It shows that I finished something else. Here's another thing. Let's say you go on to a university. When you transfer in the whole associate's degree, they transfer the whole degree in. Where I have students getting in problems is when they just transfer a bunch of credits here and there, and then the university's like, oh, well, wait a minute, that public speaking class doesn't match that public speaking class at our level, and then students complain about having to retake stuff. That does not happen. It's different when you transfer in a whole degree. They take the whole degree. I'm not saying you'll never have to retake anything, but when you're transferring the whole degree, I don't see students having these problems of credits not being accepted. Last thing is, once you get your associate degree, a lot of students don't realize there are more credits that you can even take over that before you go to your university. So let's say you have a summer left and you're thinking, wow, gosh, it's cheaper there and I could actually pick up a few more. You can get a certain number of credits over the degree that you can get here and still transfer those in. You may want your summer off, which is fine, or let's say you end up staying home. You end up not going to your college until, let's see, what would it be considered, spring semester or winter semester? Let's say whatever it is till the next year, you can stay on and pick up a few more credits. So these are just some things that you can do. So just remember that we're here to partner with you. You're in college. We are partners of Team U. I mean, that is what we're here for. And to close, by communicating with us, by using that I language, by being professional, proactive, assertive, you're getting amazing, amazing practice for when you have to go deal with these same situations with a supervisor, a coworker, or a boss. Also, remember, talk about those grade goals. If you didn't do it in week 1, do it, what's today, Monday? Do it tomorrow. Do it today. Figure out what grades you want. You guys are well into your classes by now. Figure out what you need and go get those needs met. The onus is on you, and you can do this. Remember, we are so good at being proactive. I am horrible, and most faculty, we can't stand when we have to be reactive because there are so many fewer options that we can help you with. Make sure you keep your communication open. I mean, this is the key. The key is being communicative. And remember that your instructors are your guides. And the last thing that I want to leave you with before I open up to some questions is that I am blogging once a week as the Chatty Professor. I'm talking about more of these kinds of issues, and I've blogged a bunch already since April. I also brought, these are so cute, you guys, these little mini-moo cards with all my contact information if you ever want to write me questions or if you want to follow the blog. So I want to thank you so much. I was so excited about coming here, and this is all from my heart. I started writing this because I just really believe that students have a voice. You should use your voice, share it, and use it to become the competition that other people want to be later. And I've kind of decided that instead of paying it forward, if you like what you've gotten here, say it forward. Okay. Thank you. And I'll take questions. You guys have questions? I know you guys have questions.